If a conjoined twin commits a murder who goes to trial, and if one of them is innocent, how do you punish the other? This reminds me of my old joke scheme of hiring conjoined twins to be the fall person for all the insider trading, and general legal, financial and corporate malfeasance at your billion-dollar company. However, you make sure it's documented that one of the twins was always wearing a blindfold and listening to an iPod, etc., so they were never party to the confidential business of the other twin, and so couldn't be punished for the crimes. As you are man of intelligence, answer me this. If you hire conjoined twins for a job, secretary, data entry guy, etc., should you pay them one salary or two? 'Cause they would be just doing one job, but they are two people. As a real-world example, I know that in the documentary about the Hensel twins, when they got a teaching job, they received the value of a single salaried position but were each separately paid half of it. All the cons, none of the pros. Damn. It would drop your tax bracket a few notches. Also, one could teach while the other works remote from the school. I don't see how that could work easily in this case. The remote job would have to be something that a head could do silently by itself. I know that there are technically things that can be done that way, but I'm struggling to think of anything that can be done efficiently that way. Stephen Hawking wrote books using just his jaw, IIRC. But it was an arduous and extremely slow process. Whereas with them both teaching in the same room, it's actually more efficient. Someone posted a video and the students talk about how they can deal with two student questions at the same time, etc. They each control one arm, so if you get good at typing with one hand, you could do online tech support for a company. You know, the little chat windows that pop up on almost any website that provides a service. In the 1600s, a man by the name of Lazarus killed one but not the other, but had his death sentence commuted because it would have also killed his parasitic twin, which is probably why they haven't already been separated. Your brother commits murder and one will probably die, too. Ouch. If they do not share vital organs, this is less of a conjoined twin and more of one could be executed and separated from the non-guilty one. Refers to how separation by all measures not as neurologically developed as even a baby. Even today, eyes always shut. This is extremely specific. Or choosing not to speak. There is no hell like being a lawyer and only really moving a thread that asks legal hypotheticals. Wikipedia page on it implies with sufficient medical tools. Not sure if we can do it today, but eventually, the parasitic twin could be removed without killing the independent/host twin, making them a literal parasitic twin. Yeah, but if I went with the technical term, my comment wouldn't have worked. The weirdest thing is that the dude went on to father kids. It's like, bro, how are you getting laid? Asking for a friend. There's an episode of, I think, Grey's Anatomy where one of the conjoined twins had a girlfriend that ended up cheating on him with the other twin and leaving the first twin. How would you cheat? Does she whisper into one of their ears, "This isn't for him, it's for you"? And how would the other person not notice? They literally spend 100% of their time together. If I recall, she actually doesn't cheat on him. She says that after her boyfriend falls asleep at night, she and his twin stay up talking for hours, and she falls in love with him. I think she admits it after her boyfriend brings up that his twin once accidentally touched her while they were having sex, and she keeps being like, "It's fine, I didn't mind," and then he realizes she liked it. Weird shit abounds on that show. A fish swims up a guy's urine stream and gets stuck in his penis. One dude blows up part of the hospital after his friend shoots him with a bazooka. One guy gets his penis cut off twice in the same episode by two different women. Lot of penis injuries, actually, now that I think about it. LOL, I've never seen that show, but I remember years ago a preview for a new episode where they're operating on a guy's chest area, and the ceiling literally collapses and water, mold, drywall, etc. literally falls inside of his opened body. LMAO. Imagine waking up after and finding out the ceiling fell inside of you. Fat lawsuit? Yes. The story there was that this guy was super unlucky in life, like bad shit happened to him all the time. And when they tell him about the ceiling, he's like, "Oh my god, my life fucking sucks." But then they tell him because the ceiling collapsed on him, they examined his open abdomen more closely than they usually would have to check for debris, and they noticed he had pancreatic cancer. And the guy is like fucking hell, of course. But then, that's how lawyers feel about suits, lol. Every character does something in every episode that should get them disbarred, but they act like it's just normal, legal, and smart lawyering. For example, my wife was watching an episode about an opera singer with mesothelioma, asbestos lung cancer, who didn't want his lung removed because it would end his career. They came up with the heroic solution of putting a tube down his throat and irrigating his lungs with chemo, which would definitely damage his lungs enough to end his career, if not just straight kill him. Killing him is actually the more likely of the two, and b, wouldn't work anyway because mesothelioma is a cancer of the outside lining of the lungs, so the chemo wouldn't get where it needed to go. Ah god, that seems like the most basic research issue. I'm certain they have doctors' consultants, but choose to sacrifice realism at the altar of entertainment. Here's a Slate article written by 4 attorneys on what would be done if a Siamese twin commits murder. Does his brother get punished, too? TLDR. You might throw both twins in prison but treat only the guilty one as if he were a convict. When the siblings were released, for example, the good twin would have all the rights of a normal citizen, while the evil twin would have lost the right to vote, be registered as a sex offender, etc. You might even compensate the good twin according to the relevant payout rules for wrongful convictions. You might be tempted to shorten the prison term or substitute home detention or supervised release. The courts might impose a fine on the guilty twin instead of a prison sentence. Another possibility would be enforced separation. There's little chance that the courts would allow for this kind of violation of the body, however. Wouldn't fining one twin just punish the other? I mean, they should have the same job and pay for all their expenses together, except for minor things like phones or snacks. It would depend very much on how they were conjoined. If they are conjoined at the midsection, for example, they potentially have complete independent cognition and control of their hands and arms. And so they could work 2 different desk jobs or jobs that could be done remotely or on technology, while being physically connected, in the same way that 2 people could work on 2 different computers sitting side by side on a couch. And even if they only had the easy use of one arm, there are one-handed keyboards that allow people to type efficiently. So one could be doing data analysis for a financial company, and the other could be writing a novel. How many one-armed, conjoined, novel-writing data analysts do you know? Note, not a reply to the above post. I'm not a believer in the current prison system. Isolating criminals to keep them away from society until they're safe to be around, fairly neutral about that. Taking away all their rights and autonomy, no. I'm assuming both twins have their own separate brains, but share the rest of their bodies. Reply to the above post reading that, I'm thinking home supervision and an allowance, since neither of them are ever getting a job if one of them is registered as a sex offender or a murderer. What's an employer going to do? Pretend the other guy isn't there and hope for the best. Plus, it's already been proven that the innocent twin can't intervene or stop the other one from committing crime. Or life in an expensive clinic/institution. One geared towards reintegration rather than punishment. Assuming the guilty twin makes use of doctor/client confidentiality and the innocent one isn't allowed to overheat anything, if the twins both have their own separate sight and hearing abilities, the guilty one can go through therapy while the innocent one can put on ANC headphones or read a book. Also, the innocent twin might need trauma therapy. How are you going to facilitate that without the guilty twin sabotaging it? Even if the headphone solution is reversed, like hell, a malicious twin is going to shut up and mind his own business. Medical treatment-wise, innocent twin has insomnia. Behavioral sleep therapy is hard enough on your own. A pharmaceutical solution will probably affect both bodies. Same for sedatives. Even small doses of antipsychotics can make a healthy person feel like they're living in a dream state. So anything that affects cognition or autonomy, think alternating sleeping pills so they can live separate lives, is out. Are you a fan of American Horror Story? The Freak Show season has a scenario kind of like this. I don't think it ever actually gets resolved, though. I think this would be a really challenging case. I think the important thing to consider would be, if the twin who committed the murder was a danger to society. If so, I think it would be important to keep them both imprisoned in a way that protects society but doesn't unnecessarily punish the innocent twin. Something like house arrest, or detention at some sort of high-security residential facility that still provided access to internet, family visits, etc. I'd say personal restraints on the evil twin's extremities. Handcuffs and that anti-biting mask Lecter had. By the way, if anyone's creating a comic book villain, this guy just pitched a great design. Sounds like a Dark Souls boss, to be entirely honest, ha ha ha. What if the other twin actively tried to stop the murdering twin? Or was unconscious while the other twin committed the murder? Well, was it a planned murder or an act of passion? Was it accidental, leaving no time for the other twin to act? We'll need Op to weigh in on the details, I think. As with any murder, I think all of those factors would need to be taken into consideration. But, I think as O.P.'s question is phrased, we're meant to consider a case where it is clear that one twin is innocent and the other is guilty of murder. Several possible scenarios could fit the bill. The guilty twin may have planned the murder and not informed the other twin. The guilty twin may have committed murder while the innocent twin was sleeping or unconscious. The guilty twin may have lashed out suddenly in a murderous act without giving the innocent twin enough time to intervene. The innocent twin may have been physically unable to intervene, due to their anatomical positioning in relation to their twin, or due to which body parts they have control over. Even though sentencing in a case where the other twin could somehow be implicated would weigh more comfortably on the conscience, I think Op's question is meant to have us consider a clear-cut case where one twin is clearly innocent. There was actually a scenario like this. This guy had a conjoined twin who was paralyzed. It was way back in the day, so they couldn't tell if they were actually alive. Now, the twin who wasn't paralyzed was very poor, and had to steal to eat. He was taken to court when found and were about to send him to jail until he brought up that his conjoined twin will suffer for something he didn't do. They let him off the hook and gave him a job. I might have some of my facts mixed up, since I heard the story a few years ago, but that's the gist of what happened. I've often wondered if people who were believed to be in a coma but turned out to be paralyzed, in modern medical history, suffered mentally from being unable to do anything from distracting themselves. How are they not insane? They probably get watched and talked to by family members, plus doctors might discuss things while in the room, but beyond that? Or times when people are pronounced dead but are actually in a coma and were buried alive. Which happened more than it should have. Coffins were actually made with bells that would stick out of the ground attached to a line around your finger for this reason. Let's turn this into a real nightmare. Twin 1 kills Twin 2's significant other in the bed while Twin 2 sleeps. Twin 2 wakes up next to dead lover and Twin 1 threatens to call cops, report etc. Twin 1 threatens to stab out Twin 2's eyes and cut out their tongue. Twin 1 is now guilty of homicide, threats of grievous bodily harm, intimidating a witness, possible kidnapping under threat. Coercion by making Twin 2 help cover up the crime. Need I continue? Twin 2 is a victim of all of it, and now trapped with the perpetrator for life. Now you have to consider whether to lock up both the perp and torture/wrongfully imprison the victim, or set loose a killer/abuser back on the street with continued control and contact with the victim. I say lobotomize Twin 1. But that's just me. I'd choose one of these two options. Make Twin 1 pay a large amount in fines. Go to r/legal advice. In the recent years, there have been related reports appearing in the news media about conjoined twins. Conjoined twins have been the theme of medical study, scientific exhibition, human inquisitiveness, and sometimes showbiz. This paper will try to examine the case of conjoined twins from a legal point of view. This is a hot topic with the common medical cases reported lately on conjoined twins. This paper will focus on some well-known cases related to conjoined twins, and how courts considered them, i.e. one individual or two. In doing so, the paper will highlight the different arguments set by the courts in an attempt to answer the main question of this paper. Apparently there have been cases in which legal personality was assigned to each individual of conjoined twins. This argument would only be stronger in a criminal case, so it is definitely possible. Other than that, it would depend on the circumstances, but it's hard for there not to be some degree of guilt in murder cases. If you expand the scope to all killings, including involuntary manslaughter especially, then it quickly becomes possible to imagine a myriad of examples in which this is possible. The question of how you would end up dealing with this is a very good question. I imagine it would be virtually impossible, but you also have to remember that restrictions are not punitive and therefore do not require any mens rea, guilt, to be proven in court. This, for example, applies to criminal insanity, where you can be locked up for life, even though you are not guilty, because you simply do not have the mental capacity to be accountable for your actions. Lifelong surveillance. Straight-up witness protection detail. As someone else pointed out, no future employer or people in general can safely assume that the good twin can stop the evil twin, since a crime was already committed once. However, you can't unfairly treat a twin as a prisoner knowing they are innocent. I believe that right supersedes the enforcement of any crime law. However, you can't have the evil, guilty, twin completely free because they are already found guilty and are a danger to others and their rights. So you give up the easiest of rights to give up, privacy. Complete surveillance of the twins. This shouldn't cost more than keeping basically two people in prison. New D&D character idea. Conjoined twins. One is lawful good, the other lawful evil. In Russian law you can't be jailed for a crime the other committed, but I am unsure how they solved the part where the other had committed a crime. Might need to fact check me here because I'm pretty sure I saw this from the last time this question was asked, but I ain't sure. Put the guilty one's head in a birdcage for years. Most likely they would go free. You can't knowingly imprison an innocent person according to most constitutions around the world. So unless the innocent one agreed to imprisonment, they would be released under supervision/probation. There was actually a case in Germany where one of two identical twins committed a robbery. Their DNA was too similar, they were using pretty bad techniques, so they couldn't know which one had actually done it, so both went free. It's probably not a waivable right. Dude, if the other twin didn't stop him, then it would be a bin them both. Could be wrong, but the other twin watched and did nothing about the murder, so he's guilty too. I would think that the brother would be complicit in the murder charge. I mean, how would one commit a murder without the other knowing in advance? Unless it was manslaughter or something. I dunno, this question hurts my brain. How do you live with yourself knowing that the person joined to you is a murderer but hasn't received any punishment? Blast Cardi B her headphones look to the murder's head. The question should be is if the twin that didn't commit the murder was the one that reported the murder. If he or she didn't, then they were complicit in the crime, so they would go to jail too. As for the twin who committed the murder, he or she must be allowed to bathe until the sentence has been completed. Accomplice possibly, depending on the level of control of the body the other twin had. Clearly a parasitic twin would be unlikely to be culpable, but fully functioning twins like the Hensel sisters. Maybe you could punish both. I'll ask my criminal law teacher on Monday, stay tuned. I mean, if you were a conjoined twin you could have stopped your twin. WTF are they gonna do, kill you? Questions like these are what keep me up at night. An extension, what happens if you execute one but not the other? If they are sharing a circulatory system or vital organs, which is probably why they haven't already been separated, the innocent one will probably die, too. If they do not share vital organs, theoretically the guilty one could be executed and separated from the non-guilty one, but separation surgery is dangerous and tends to kill one or both frequently, even today. This is extremely specific. There is no hell like being a lawyer and reading an AskReddit thread that asks legal hypotheticals. Good God, you guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment Reddit Story Time for more Reddit stories.